if you're watching TV to learn about hunting, you're not going to learn anything, because those guys are hunting on farms with hundreds of deer. They say, oh, I don't have a good angle on that, I'm going to come back tomorrow, you know, that sort of stuff. When you're in the real forest with real deer, there is no tomorrow. That might be your only chance this year, and I've experienced that many times. Hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and today I'm going to tell the story of my 2020 deer. So it's October 2021, and it's about a week before the opening of deer season. That is to say, the deer season where you can use a rifle, right? You can, as of right now, you can use a muzzle loader or a bow and arrow or a crossbow or things like that. But the actual deer season for using rifles does not open for about a week, right? The last Saturday of October is the first day of deer season where I live in Nova Scotia. Okay, so, and it's unbelievably warm, and unbelievably, like, unseasonably warm. It's like 20 Celsius today, which is very warm for this time of year. It's just freakish and terrifying if you're, you know, keeping tabs on these sorts of things. But putting all of that aside, I'm going to tell the story of last year's deer. And, you know, on this channel, I'm going to talk about hunting, but I'm not going to show dead animals, okay? Lots of hunting channels do that, and sure, that's fine. It seems strange to me. And I can do a whole nother video on why I don't do that. But suffice it to say, it's just not my thing. I'm going to talk about it, but I'm not going to show it. I'm going to talk about how I figured out how to set up my blind and where to be so I could take a deer last year. And I'm going to set up in the exact same spot this year because I think it's a good spot. So let me just show you where I am right now. So I'm on a logging road, okay? So it goes up that way, and it goes up that way. And looking on the side of the logging road, there's pine right there. And there's pine right there. And it just seems like an odd spot to me. And I can see right here on this side that there's like an obvious deer trail. I don't know how obvious that is to you, but you can see that there's a bit of a V here where the terrain breaks up, where animals go down this way. And on this side, there's a little drainage creek down there, and a bit of a hole where, you know, actually my guess is that the deer go down this way, right? But there's a bit of a hole down there. And if you go off to the side a little bit, it sort of opens up here. My guess is that the deer were going on this side of that creek. There's a little tiny, it's not a creek, it's like a drainage ditch, right? The deer go right down through here. You can sort of see. I was walking down this logging road and I saw this dip. And I thought, boy, my God, that looks like a trail that human beings would make. It's just so open, you know, and it's a deer trail because you can see that the, what's it called? The brush line. So the branches that come across the trail are all coming across at about 3 feet high, because deer can go beneath that. But it's basically open below 3 feet high going that way. So I thought, I don't think deer walk this way, and I don't think deer walk that way. I think they come up here and they go over here and they follow that little creek. That's what I think they do. And so I decided to walk in that way and have a little look. So let's go that way. Let's go that way and see what we can find. So I walked off to the side a little bit because I don't want to use the same trail the deer use. And I went in around here. And I made this trail, you know, probably spent about 10 minutes making this passable for a human being. And I wouldn't be surprised if deer don't use this now. Okay. So I got a nice little trail here on a ravine. That's downhill. That's like 45 degrees downhill that way to the little creek. I don't know if you can see the creek down there. Creek, drainage ditch, whatever you want to call it. You know, there's water down there, but certain times of the year there's no water at all. It's only when there's water to drain. All right, so I made this little trail passable enough so that I could come here early in the morning, not making a lot of noise going, and you can see I blazed this tree. Just so I could come here at like 6 a.m. right before sunrise and not make a whole lot of noise, okay? So, all right, there's another blaze right there, right? So I made it easy. I could get up in the morning, come out this way. Bearing in mind that I think the deer go follow the creek there. I'm going to call it a creek even though it's more of a drainage ditch, okay? Bearing in mind that they probably follow that because that's where all the food is down there, right? The ecology, when you go up the hill, it's just moss and pine trees. But when you get near the water, that's where all the different things that a deer might eat, like foxberries and stuff like that. That's where all the food is within 6 feet of the water, right? Like any deserted system. This is not a desert, but think about a desert as an idea in your mind. There's no life anywhere, but anywhere in a desert where there's water, there's life. So even though this is not a desert, obviously not, there's moss everywhere. The variation in life is down by the water. That's where all the different things are, and that's where all the potential food will be for a thing like a deer, a herbivore, right? So I'm taking a different, I'm following up along here. My guess is that the deer are down along there. Staying up high, because my theory is that the deer are down near the water, where all the interesting things are, okay? I'm gonna set up a deer blind right here, okay? So my idea is that deer follow that creek, but they also cross that creek somewhere. And so I decided to, when I was scouting this area out, now you can see it's a big pine forest here, which we don't have a lot of these here, right? It is reasonably good, good visibility. If you go on the other side of the creek there, you can't see any more than 20-30 feet. It's so dense. But this space here is big and open, and there's reasonably good sight lines because it's a big, I don't know, spruce, pine, hemlock forest, conifer forest, but mature. This has never been logged, never been touched, never been nothing. Okay, this has always been left alone, and I can see a good distance here. Okay, so once I get to this spot, I just followed the creek and I looked for a spot where it seemed like the deer wanted to cross, where I could see a lot of tracks, deer tracks. And it seemed fairly obvious to me that the deer like to cross around here. There's indentations in the soil here. If you go to the other side, let's see if I can do that without soaking my boots. This spot here is just unnaturally pushed down. There's no grass or foliage growing here. Seems to be a spot where things are walking and crossing. This is one of the narrower spots. It's nice and firm here, nice and firm. It's all gravel in the creek here. So I thought the deer must be crossing around here. If you can find a creek and determine where the deer like to cross that creek, that is really handy. I mean, that's sure, you can get a spot in the woods, set out apples or whatever bait you use, and bring the deer into the spot you use. But a far more powerful spot is to just spend the time walking in the woods and figure out what the deer like to do and where they like to be. And to me, this spot, there's no obvious deer tracks. There's like really subtle indentations in the soil. There's one right there. Little spots that looks like something like there. That's just unnaturally pushed down right there. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's just unnaturally put down, right? I can sort of tell that the deer come down this hill somewhere around here, and that they like to cross right around here. I can just tell that they like to do that because it's all pushed down. There's not a lot. See how the grass is growing here, but there's no other grass. I can just sort of tell that they like to cross here, right? Sure, over time they've changed their mind, and somewhere, within this 20-foot area, somewhere along here is where they usually like to cross, because it's open and they can get through and it's reasonably shallow. This is where they like to do it. So I decided to set up a blind, thinking that here's another spot, a really good spot, right? So this is a very narrow spot right here, right? The creek is only about 2 feet wide, and I don't know how well you can tell this from looking, but the leaves here are they're just dipped down like a U, right? Anywhere where the ground makes a bit of like a rut, the ground is lower than normal, right? Something's coming down this way. It's very subtle because there's a lot of leaves that have just fallen, so you can't see exactly where the deer have been going, but it just seems pushed down here, right? So I know they cross here and go up this way. Look how there's soil missing right there. See that little black hole? Right? This is where, and it's relatively open this way, right? So I have a pretty good guess that, and the deer don't follow specific trails. I mean, they do and they don't, I guess. But reading the land, they like to cross somewhere around here within this 20-foot span, right? And they go up that hill, or they come from up there and they come down and they cross over that way. So I thought, if I can get a spot set up perpendicular to this area and get a blind set up and just wait and be quiet, maybe I can see some deer. So that's what I did over here. So I set up a really little blind. This maybe took an hour for me to rig up this little setup here. Okay, so I set up a little chair, right, and a little blind. Okay, and my idea was that I would sit here and look down there and wait for a deer to cross. I thought a deer would come from up there, come down the hill, and cross the creek down there, because I walked the whole length of the creek, and the only spot I could see along the creek in this general area where deer seem to cross with regularity was down there, about 25 yards from where I'm sitting right here. And I've never shot, this is, I'm talking about hunting today, but I'm not one of these people that takes these amazing shots from 1,000 yards away and all sort of super shots. Every deer I've ever shot has been under 50 yards, 50 meters, and the vast majority have been within 25 yards, because I like this thick, dense woods type setup You know, aside from the fact that you can just use cheaper rifles to make short range shots like that, I'm also not the greatest shot in the world. I'll be honest with you. You know, like I'm not. I've gone to the range with people that are really good at shooting. I'm just not that good at it. At 50 yards with open sights, I can hit a pie plate. At 50 yards with a scope, I can hit. I had to do a 3-inch grouping at 50 yards. And as it gets beyond that, I get worse and worse and worse. I'm just not a naturally good shot. Okay, then you can make fun of that and so on and so on. I don't care, because I still get deer. All right, so it's more about thinking about where you should be, where the deer want to be. Think about where the deer want to be and get yourself reasonably close to that, and just be quiet and patient and wait. So down there, I thought, you know, roughly 25 yards from where I'm sitting is where I thought the deer would be crossing. I had a good sight line up the hill. Okay. And I was just going to wait, and hopefully they came down this way. And I thought maybe they'll come from over there along the creek, but I didn't think that was the most likely, because the majority of the traffic, the heaviest trail looking spot in terms of game trail, was down there. Okay, so I thought the deer would be going perpendicular to the creek and that they'd be down there. So last year around, I don't know, 6:30 or, you know, whatever it is, like a half an hour before sunrise, right? Half an hour before dawn, I walked out here in the morning and sat down and got myself set up and got myself quiet. And I just waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. And I waited about an hour. So I waited half an hour, there was sunrise, and then I waited another half an hour, and then at some point I heard a noise. And what I heard was a deer up there somewhere. I heard something up there. Creak, crack, splish, splash, leaves moving, something. Something was up there. And so, you know, I got myself ready. I use a Swedish Mauser, 6.5 millimeter by 55. And you know, those things have like military safeties, so you have to be careful how you release the safety so that it doesn't make any noise. Like most military rifles, they're sort of noisy when you release the safety, so you have to be careful. They're not noisy if you do it right, but they can be noisy if you do it wrong. Let's put it that way. So you know, I spent like, you know, 10, 15 seconds releasing the safety, just getting ready, because I heard something up there. And I watched and I watched and I waited and I listened. And over here, I saw a big, heavy, impressive doe. Okay, so it's opening day and I see a doe over there. Okay, just take it easy, relax, wait till you get a good shot. And so I watched the doe come down the hill. And then after about a minute or two, I don't know, probably seconds, but it felt like hours, I see a fawn and another fawn and another fawn. It's a mother with 3 little children, right? Really little fawns. I just can't do it, right? You know, there's guys that do it, but I just couldn't do it, right? I just could not take that mother away from those children, right? So I just watched the doe walk down, cross exactly where I thought the deer would cross, and I watched the little fawns, you know, the size of goats, follow the mummy, and they went off into the woods over there. And that was opening day. And I thought, oh, you know, I could have had it all over with today, but you know, sometimes you got to make those decisions, and I just did not feel right doing that. There's people that, I got no problem with people that do that sort of thing. I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to live with that. That's the best way I could put it. Didn't feel right. You know, I sat here for about another 15. I had an apple, I had a little snack. I was kind of feeling like, if you just taken that doe, your deer season would be over and you wouldn't have to do any of this anymore, but whatever, you know. So I just hung around for about half an hour, and then I decided to, like, you know, improve my blind a little bit and get some cover from the area and improve the little seat I've got here, right? make it a little more comfortable for me, and just get reset up. So I got set up, had a little snack and so on and so forth. And then I settled in. I said, okay, I'm gonna be here till noon. I'm gonna sit here till noon, and if nothing happens, I'm done for the day. Because, you know, you can only sit around so long. You get cold, you get bored, and so on and so forth. So I'm sitting here after that doe had gone by. Okay, so now it's 30 minutes after the doe has gone by, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and so on. And I'm watching this, you know, I'm just panoramically scanning the horizon, listening, waiting for action. And then for some reason, I have no idea why, I get this sense like I should look behind me, like a sixth sense, right? So I just slowly turn my head. I don't move my legs, I don't move anything else. Quietly, carefully, just turn my body, and I look over here, and really close, there's a deer over there. Not far at all. All right, so you saw where I waved. That's roughly where I saw the deer. He was working his way along the edge of the creek, eating, from what I could tell, were I think they're called foxberries. I'll research and put a picture up and tell you exactly what I think the deer was eating. But basically, over there where I was waving, I saw a good deer, like a 200-pound deer. It didn't have a lot of points. It was like a 6-point buck, but it was big, right? Because sometimes a deer can be a good size and not have a lot of points. So over there, about let's say 25, 30 yards, I saw a deer that way, which is not where I thought the deer would be, right? I expected the deer to be over there, right? I was not ready for it to be. So think about my legs. My legs were this way, facing this way. And when I just decided to look back behind me, I just turned my head and saw something back there. I saw a deer, a big deer, like a horse, right? But I had to turn my whole body to make the shot. So over a very, what seemed like an eternity, I just really slowly, I kept my eye on the deer the whole time. And every time he put his head down, it was a male, it was a buck. Every time he put his head down to eat whatever he was eating, which I think was those foxberries, I would move my legs a little bit, as quietly as I could move, right? I repositioned my body so I could turn around. So facing this way, I had a nice little rest. I was all set up to make a perfect shot with a beautiful rest. I had nothing set up to go this way. But anyway, I slowly worked my way around, quietly, as slowly and quietly as I could, until I was facing in the direction of the deer. And now I've got no rest, I've got no nothing, I'm just freehand. And the rifle I use is just open sights. And at some point I'm gonna have to change that because, you know, I'm approaching 50, and you know, you just can't, you need glasses and stuff like that. But anyway, finally I got myself turned around, and I was just watching the deer, waiting for a good spot where he was kind of, I wanted him to be side on so I could aim for that area in the chest behind. I guess I was hoping he would turn left so I could just shoot behind his left leg at the heart, right? He never did that. He kept facing, he was walking towards me, but along that edge, but generally towards me, not side on, because he's coming this way. So I just waited and waited and waited, and I had the gun all ready, and I was basically as relaxed and as calm and as poised as I could be. And then when the deer was about around where I put that mark on the tree, around where I was waving to you, that general area, all of a sudden the deer stopped, picked his head up, and he looked straight at me. And I was just sitting here I had like a, you know, the flannel jacket I normally have in my Outdoors on the Cheap videos. That's what I was wearing, gray and you know, different shades of gray, a checkered flannel gray and black, sort of gray and dark gray jacket, right? No camo, no nothing, just these pants and a checkered camo, a checkered gray, a flannel gray jacket. Okay, that's all I had on. And I was just sitting here, you know, with my orange vest on and all that other stuff too, right? The stuff you have to wear. I was just sitting here very quietly, but all of a sudden he stopped and he looked up and he looked right at me and stopped what he was doing. He stopped eating, stopped doing everything, and just looked straight at me. And I just thought, that deer knows something's wrong. I don't know if he smells me or if he's just got some mojo going on, but that deer knows something's off. Things aren't normal. I have to take this shot right now or he's going to make a move. So I just aimed at his chest, right? You hit the chest, you're going to hit the lungs, you're going to hit the heart, you're going to hit something, but I aimed at the chest and I let her go. And he dropped. He dropped right over there. Didn't take a step, didn't move at all. Just dropped right there. He dropped so suddenly that I thought maybe he'd run off and I didn't notice it. He just disappeared. Literally, there was a deer there. I pulled the trigger and the deer disappeared. And I thought maybe he ran off to the side. Because, you know, when you're firing a weapon, you're all excited. You got buck fever. You're all jacked up and all this sort of stuff. You're trying to control yourself. You're trying to control your breathing. You're trying to stay calm and stay collected and rational. But it's very, very hard not to, because this is your one chance. You know, you see a deer and you get a good shot. That might be your only chance the entire deer season. If you're watching TV to learn about hunting, you're not going to learn anything, because those guys are hunting on farms with hundreds of deer. They say, oh, I don't have a good angle on that, I'm going to come back tomorrow, and all that sort of stuff. When you're in the real forest with real deer, there is no tomorrow. That might be your only chance this year, and I've experienced that many times. Do not take your advice from hunting shows. They are just, they're hunting on farms with hundreds and hundreds of deer, and they have many, many options, and it's just not real. Okay, I don't want to offend anyone, but it's just fake. In the real world, when you see a deer and it's in range and you've got a good shot, that might be the only chance you get the whole season. Because as the season, especially where I live, as the season rolls on, the deer get nocturnal, they get skittish, they get careful, they just go on a whole nother level. Opening day, the first opening week, the deer are still a little bit, you know, uncautious. Let's put it that way. But as the season rolls on, they get less cautious. Or as the season rolls on, they get very, very clever, very cagey, very cute. Anyway, so the thing looked up. I fired the shot. It just disappeared from view. And I didn't know what to do. But I remembered from reading lots and lots of hunting books to just stay put. My best guess was that the deer had dropped. Just like you would. If you were hit hard by something, you would go down. If you've ever been hit hard by a person or in an accident, you drop, you go down, right? If you hit yourself really hard, if you experience trauma to the body, you go down. And you know, you go down and you think about what just happened. Am I all right? What should I do next? What's my next move? You think it all through. So I didn't know what to do, but I thought the deer probably did the same thing a person would do. So all the hunting books will tell you, just stay put. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Just keep your eye on where you think you last saw the deer and wait 5 minutes, which is an eternity when you think you've shot a deer. So I just sat here. I have my little phone. I looked my phone up. And I guess I don't have a wristwatch. And I just watched the time go by. And I just waited 5 minutes, remembering where I last saw the deer. And just taking it easy. After 5 minutes went by, during that time I was just thinking, I chambered another round. I got all ready, sort of thing. I was ready, right? But anyway, and I stood up after 5 minutes. And I started walking very carefully, rifle up, in firing position, ready, and just walked towards where I'd seen that deer last. And I could not see it at all. There was no sign of a deer. Nothing. No sign at all. I just worked my way over, and it wasn't until I was right here that I noticed the deer. Right down here in these bushes. He basically dropped right where I'd shot him. Didn't move an inch. He dropped, probably suffered for a short amount of time and then expired. Right? So I'm not doing this video to brag about what a great hunter I am or how macho I am or anything like that. That's not the point. The point is, for those of you that are interested in hunting and you're learning about it, to give you a sense of how to scope out an area, come up with a plan, set yourself up for success in that plan, but also be ready for things that aren't accounted for. I didn't think the deer would be coming from this direction. I thought the deer would be way over there. Right? But I was, I had the presence of mind to look back, and the deer was coming from a different direction than I thought. So I just changed plans, slowly turned my body around quietly, really quietly. I mean, the deer was close, but it's more important, if he got that close and didn't know I was there, he couldn't smell me, right? So if he was that close, and it's not close at all, I'm not far at all. I don't know if you can see the blind, but it's not far. It's like a toss. If you think about a baseball diamond, my blind is first base to home base over there. Okay, not far. Okay, so if the deer had gotten that close and not, the deer was that close and had no idea, it was just happily walking along feeding. It didn't know I was there. So the only way I could make that deer aware that I was there was to make a lot of movement or make some noise. Creak, crack, creak, crack, creak. So I moved slowly and quietly, turned my body around, got myself calm, got myself ready. And I was ready just in time to take the shot for when he was standing right around here and looked up and saw something weird, probably my silhouette, right? A weird shape that doesn't belong over here, right? And at that moment is when I took him. So that's the story of my 2020 deer, how I figured it all out. I found a nice little ravine with a creek. If there's a creek, the deer have to cross somewhere. I found where the deer like to cross the creek. I set up a blind where I could view that spot. And then things went the other way because they walk along the creek until they find a nice place to cross. But it didn't matter because I kept my head, stayed calm, stayed quiet, kept my movement down to a minimum, and waited for the opportunity to take the shot. And I got a nice deer. It was a good sized deer. So that's how I did it. I hope you found that interesting. If you want to know more about the rifle I used, that sort of stuff, put some comments in the description box. Basically, the rifle I use is what is, in my opinion, the best value for the dollar you can find in terms of rifles, or at least one of the best values for money you can find in terms of accuracy, hitting power, and all that sort of stuff for hunting deer in terrain like this. But anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. And until next time, enjoy the outdoors on the cheap. Thanks for watching.